morning, giving you my introduction the way I just looked at it yesterday, while I was just thinking. As it is now, Lagos is a coastal city and it sits on the brink of the Atlantic and has long undoubtedly carved a niche for itself as a city of perennial gridlocks. Wherever you look on the city's major roads, especially on the roads that lead to Apapa, or the one that goes to the island, or the ones that goes or come Ikorodu Road, where major seaports are located, and then where major office, environment is, what you see is a long line of vehicles stuck in traffic caused by articulated vehicles. Now, for months on end, debilitating traffic chaos has persistently locked Lagos down, leaving the populace frustrated and in perpetual agony. Now, there are particular things that I'd like to refer to. A major implication of the perennial traffic congestion in Lagos is its cost on the finances of the state and the residents. The more time the residents spend in traffic, the more financial misfortune the state suffers. So, for adventure, you want to look at it this way. Why is she talking about traffic? Is it that important? Imagine that you're a businessman. You have a business appointment for 8 o'clock in Lekki, and this morning you left your house at 5 a.m. and as at 8 a.m. you were still at Dolphin Estate. Just imagine. You have a business to attend to. It involves money. There's a possibility that the client is not going to wait for you, and by the time you get there, it's going to be too late to get anything out of that meeting. Possibly you wouldn't have, the client would have, angrily left the location, having, the person not having an idea. So maybe if you have a business meeting at 8 o'clock, you would have to go to Lekki to go sleep overnight last night. So it is that bad. So it actually affects the financial capacity of the residents of Lagos, and particularly businessmen, traders, business owners. It's beginning to affect a lot of things. So we thought it necessary to, talk about this upsurge. And to discuss this with me this morning is somebody that he said he's a celebrity, because I've been looking forward to having him on the show for a very, very long time. I have with me in the studio Mr. Babatunde Olalere Badamosi, the ADP candidate of governorship candidate of Lagos State. And looking at his profile, he's a real estate mogul. He's a multiple award-winning CEO of the Red Brick Homes International Limited and urban development expert. So he knows about urban planning, especially when it comes to mega cities like Lagos. So he has a very, very vast knowledge of what should happen, and then is a public policy analyst. So he knows about, he has a wealth of knowledge that covers all of these areas. We have him in the studio this morning. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, Tomisin.
Thank you so much.
Nice to be on your show.
It's a pleasure having you. As you said, you're celebrating on my show because I've been looking forward to having you for quite a while now. All right, talking about the upsurge in traffic in Lagos. We were talking yesterday, and I'm sure that, let's assume, where did you come from this morning?
Well, I came from a hotel nearby.
you had to prepare for that particular reason.
I had to come last night and stay at a nearby hotel to allow myself the opportunity of getting there on time.
Exactly.
And that's a new policy that I've just that my people have just started. That
that was what I just said. I didn't even know that was what you said.
If we have anything to do on the mainland,
you have to come this way, lodge overnight.
And if I have anything to do, even in Lekki Phase 1,
you would have to leave home like 2 hours early.
No, the situation now is that I actually have to stay overnight in Lekki Phase 1 to be able to be certain that I'll meet my appointment. It's really sad that Lagos has come to this point, but let's not belabor that. Let's focus on the solutions.
Yes.
And I've said countless times to successive governments since 1999 that the Lagos traffic situation is not completely unmanageable. It's something that we can actually fix as long as we're honest, forthright, focused and passionate about the solutions that we're bringing to the table. So what do we need to do? Previous governments have done something that I particularly like, and that's the creation of the Lagos State Traffic Management Agency last month.
The last month, managing and all that.
I actually like that because that has actually helped perhaps correct to some extent bad driver attitudes, you know. So we've had some, how do you say, some tempering.
Progress, maybe.
We've had some tempering of the bad attitudes, especially amongst commercial drivers in Lagos. Right. And of course, their attitudes contribute immensely to the traffic horrendous traffic situation in Lagos. There's no doubt about that. Now, there's that. But unfortunately, in the last couple of years, there seems to have been a deliberate culling, that is mass sackings in LASMA. There has been a marked reduction in the number of LASMA personnel that we see on the streets of Lagos.
True,
and that has resulted, in my opinion, in perhaps a resurgence of the nasty driving attitudes of commercial and other drivers. So we've seen a return to past behavior, you know, facing one-way traffic and all that kind of thing. So that's one solution. We need to bring in more LASMA. We need to hire, we need to employ more people into LASMA. And we also need to improve the service conditions of the LASMA officials, not just in terms of their equipment, not just in terms of their work infrastructure, vehicles, radios, personnel cams, perhaps drones to help them see the traffic ahead and find out solutions, a central command center, CCTV cameras.
That's very key.
To be deployed all over Lagos. These are things that I would have implemented if I were in government.
No, but really, let's look at it this way. Lagos is a mega city. Lagos is not just a mega city yesterday. Lagos has always been the biggest city in Lagos, the biggest in Africa as a whole. I'm wondering, 30 years, 40 years, we should have CCTV.
Yes, we should. It shouldn't
of course, we know what the problem is. It shouldn't
be a matter for debate, to be honest with you. I gather that there was some kind of debate going on between the federal and the state government in the previous administration. I see no reason for it. I don't see any reason why we should be discussing, you know, basic security matters like that with anyone outside of state. It's a state matter. We're the ones here. We're the ones having to face the brunt.
It's like fixing your street lights.
Yes, we're the ones having to face the brunt of, you know, not having intelligence on traffic, on crime, and things like that. So we need to implement that, and we need to implement it fast. Fortunately, CCTV technology is quite cheap now. It's totally inexpensive. You can bring in, we could camera up the whole of Lagos State for less than it costs, you know, to feed the governor every year. You know, we could do that. The security vote of the governor could take care of that very easily, you know.
And since you call it security vote.
Yes. Also, you know, the issue of LASMA, I think I can't overemphasize that too much. We need to employ more LASMA officials.
But I have a serious question when it comes to LASMA officials. I've had one or two encounters with them.
Yes.
As much as we recognize that there are some that are professionals and very apt to what they need to do, they're very diligent on duty, there are some that are just there to get money into their coffers.
Yes,
and I've had encounters with some of them.
And that goes to one of my personal policies in my business life, which I hope to be able to translate into government, and that is that we do have a very bad culture in Nigeria of compensation. It's very bad. We have a slavish mentality when it comes to employing people. We don't pay for people's time. We don't pay the right value for the kind of work that we expect from people, and then we expect too much. That's something that has to be corrected. It's a holdover from colonial days, you know, when the British came here to just extract, and take as much as they could away with them to Britain. And of course, what they did was they left the Nigerian populace, the locals, with barely enough to live on. Okay, and that's been carried over into so-called independence years. And unfortunately for us, we've never been able to break free of that particular chain. That's something that I'm looking to correct. So the issue of last mile officials squeezing the public for as much money as they can get out of them, that's really, in my opinion, a direct result of the bad compensation culture. Now, if we were to employ last mile officials, say for instance, let me give you an example. Back in the 1970s, university graduates in Nigeria, as soon as they graduated, got jobs, usually with the federal or with the state government, and within a few months, from their salary savings, they could actually buy a car.
Yeah.
Sometimes brand new, sometimes used. Okay, now, today,
it's totally different.
It's not possible for you to graduate from school, perhaps get any kind of job,
no, even
whether
if you
in the
get
private
a
sector
kind of
or the
job,
public sector.
You really cannot buy a car until like the second or the third year.
Yes, exactly. Our wages are not commensurate. They're not in tune with the
even
realities with the economic realities of our times.
That's why 30,000 to us is a big deal.
30,000. I personally think 30,000 naira minimum wage is an insult.
Yes.
I personally think so.
Because it's 30K,
I mean, think about
1,000 daily.
There is no electricity in Nigeria.
So you buy fuel for your generator.
You have to buy fuel every day. Somewhere in the region of 750 naira every day.
Yes.
Every 10 days you're spending 7,500.
Your children go to school.
So every 30 days you're spending 22,500 naira just to buy petrol or diesel
for your generator.
To power your generator. So out of 30,000, you're left with 7,500. Now by the time you feed yourself, never mind the children, by the time you actually feed yourself 3 meals a day, all right?
Even if you're feeding yourself at 300 naira per meal.
Yeah.
That's 900 times 30 days, and that's 27,000.
Exactly. And therefore, 30,000 is not realistic. Let's be frank with one another. Okay. Why the legislators at the federal level are insisting that it's too much, I don't know. Perhaps from state to state, you know, if we looked at it,
because
if we looked at it on a state-to-state basis, cost of living index in each state is different. Lagos and River State being the most expensive states to live in Nigeria.
Maybe
there's no doubt about
Calabar.
it. Followed very closely by Abuja because of the housing situation there.
Housing is expensive in Abuja,
all right.
But transport is a bit cheap.
And then perhaps followed by Kano. And all the other states, almost uniformly, are generally you know, less expensive to live in than all these aforementioned territories. So, coming back to the last mile wages, you know, I would think personally that if you're risking your life, the way last mile officials have been asked to risk their lives, because you know, managing traffic in Lagos State on the streets of Lagos is a life-threatening job.
Yes.
You know, I don't know what kind of
insurance. Especially when you have to deal with drivers who are not sane.
I don't know what kind of insurance is being given to last mile officials, but I would implement life insurance, injury insurance. You know, I would implement this for every single
so that
last
everybody
mile official.
Is well covered.
Yes,
exactly.
So that people are absolutely confident that whatever happens to them on the job,
they have some form of coverage.
You have to make the job worth the while. You have to make the job worth fighting for. You have to make the job worth defending. You know, somebody going to work every day and receiving just, you know, and risking his life the way last mile officials do, and receiving just, I don't know, I think they're now on about 30 or 40,000 per month.
Per month, yeah, okay. for the lower cadre.
That doesn't make any sense. I don't think any last mile official should go home with less than 100,000 after tax. That's my position. Because if you think about it, okay, he's gonna, like we just calculated 22,500 for food generator.
For generator, and then we did 27
for himself. Never mind his wife and children. He's going to spend another 20,000 odd.
Transportation to school.
By the time you factor in transportation at current costs, of course, transportation costs are going to go down when we take office. There's no doubt about that. Okay. By the time you factor in transportation at current costs, even with 100,000, he's barely left with about 30,000 naira every month.
Let's move on a bit from last month.
That's that. Now, the second way of sorting out the horrendous traffic situation in Lagos is to simply fix the roads.
I was going to mention roads.
Just fix the roads.
I read an article.
I mean, we've been building roads in Lagos State since 1947. The people of Ikorodu, led by my grandfather, Eso Gbadamosi, got together and decided that they needed a road. There was no road existing between Lagos and Ikorodu as of 1946. They got together, you know, having spoken to the colonial government and asked for a road, and the colonial government having told them, you know, where to stuff their demand. Okay? They got together, put their money together, and got their people together, cleared the bush all the way from Ikorodu right into St. Agnes in Yaba. And they built that road themselves. The Ikorodu road that you see today was originally built in 6 years, 30 miles, from Ikorodu to Yaba by the people of Ikorodu. So, what I'm trying to say is, road construction is not new to Lagosians. Okay? Yes, it was the first trunk A road in Nigeria. There's no doubt about that. Okay? And it was self-built. So really by now, we ought not to be talking about road technology anymore. It's old news to us. What we should be talking about is other forms of mass transit.
Because we have a lot of people, and
so at the very minimum, we ought to have our road construction and maintenance down pat, as they say. We should have sorted that out by now. Unfortunately, for some people, road construction is rocket science. And these people do not deserve to spend one more day managing our affairs if they can't manage something as simple as resurfacing roads, repairing roads, redesigning roads. A lot of our roads are actually badly designed.
And they're really bad.
They're actually badly designed. You find that a lot of our streets, a lot of our roads in Lagos State have open drains. That's a no-no. That's old news. That shouldn't be the case anymore in the 21st century, but you still see new roads being constructed with open drains. Okay. And then also there's no pedestrian access.
Have you discovered that some of the drains don't actually lead anywhere?
Yes, that's true. A lot of the drains are just dead ends.
You just get somewhere,
it fills up. Eventually
and flows back to the main road
and then onto the road. Now, the bad design is on so many fronts. First of all, the drains are open. That's a problem. Second of all, there's no pedestrian access. So pedestrians and motorists, you know, jostle for space on the same roadway. That's another no-no, and it's also risky. It's bad for our health, so to speak. Okay. Then also, the roads are not designed to carry the volume of traffic that we have in terms of vehicular traffic. Okay. We design the roads without thinking that cars will need to park at some point. So what ends up happening is, where we do have some pedestrian access, cars end up parking on the sidewalk where pedestrians should be walking.
And then the pedestrians go down to the main road.
And to credit this current administration, let me be frank and let me be honest. In some portions, not every portion of road that they build, but in some portions of road that they've built, they've actually fenced off the pedestrian portion.
Yes, to ensure that people can
ensure that vehicles cannot come
there
onto the pedestrian pavement. But it's only in small portions. It's a token effort. That's my problem. It's a great design, but it's a token effort, and it needs to be spread across the state. Also, the visual impact of those fences is not so great. You know, and you really can't be having that in neighborhood streets. There are other less visually impactful ways of keeping vehicles off the pedestrian pavement. Like you can use small concrete bollards, for instance, that would be spaced in such a way that it would be impossible for
the vehicle to climb over.
Actually go in. The only other menace to worry about is motorcyclists and keke riders. And these guys, there are other ways also of keeping them
off the pedestrian
pavement. Okay, but by and large, we need to redesign